Hello everyone, Evasion here and welcome back to another video. In today's video, I wanted to make a quick subtlety guide with the talent stats, gear rotation that I'm going to be starting the season off with. And we are getting some nerfs on Tuesday, so by the time you see this video, the nerfs may already be out. They're nerfing our self-healing on Vanish and Shadow Dance, as well as they're nerfing the damage in PvP on the Rotten talent. To get value out of this content, please be sure to give the video a like, and without further ado, let's hop into it. Alright, so here is the talent build that I am currently playing. There is a couple things you can change as well. I've actually been, a lot of rogues are playing this build, and I'll talk about a few of the key things that make it different or you might not notice at first glance. You can actually drop fleet-footed, and you can drop the improved sprint point as well and put them into Prey on the Weak. All the way down to Reverberation, so you get that increased damage, Soothing Darkness, and of course Shadow Dance for the 2 dance charges. Damage from Prey on the Weak, which is pretty cool. It's only 6% in PvP, something good to note. And as long as Echoing Reprimand is still hitting for like 60-70k, having the Reverberation talent is definitely really good. If this ever gets nerfed, we switch to a more Eviscerate-oriented build. The other talent could be better. Soothing Darkness, it currently heals for 30% on this client, but after Tuesday, this will only heal for 15%. This is still going to be really good. It's a lot of passive healing to get, and even then, it was still used in double DPS, so this talent is still going to be great. The fact that it activates off Vanish as well is very useful. I currently don't press Gouge all that much. It's very useful in some comps, but there's so many passive dots and shit out of the way. Like, you can just use it as a throwaway DR to interrupt a cast, but it's not as useful as it used to be. Something that might not be obvious at first glance is there's only 1 out of 2 points in improved Shadow Dance. This build only has a 7-second dance. That's actually not a big deal because most of the damage comes out in the first 5 seconds of the go anyway. So as much as I would like to have this max just because it feels better to play with, we can't really afford to drop anything else to get this here, and we don't even have the points to get Master of Shadows, which I've always liked as well. However, we don't really need the energy. And one of the main reasons we don't need the energy for this is because whenever we're going for our go, we always have Symbols of Death, which grants us 40 energy. And also, another thing that really contributes is Echoing Reprimand. It only costs 10 energy, so we don't really have the same kind of energy problems. Gloomblade in combination with Lingering Shadow has got some pretty good damage if your dance ever falls off. This Danse Macabre is pretty good extra damage as well. As long as it stays at 6%, it'll be hard to drop this. This is kind of like the cornerstone of all sub builds, I would say, at the moment. Along with Dark Shadow, 30% more damage when you use Shadow Dance is pretty powerful. So the Rotten here, this is getting nerfed. So this will say 30% in PvP. I don't know if it'll actually say it. It'll probably still say 50%. The tooltips are weird in this game. In PvP, this is only going to be a 30% increase. This will still provide some decent damage, and the 4 combo points is of course nice as well. And the guaranteed crit strike. But the main reason this tree and these talents will probably stay the same is because of Invigorating Shadow Dust. At the start of Shadowlands, this legendary was played when rogues were really, really powerful and we didn't actually need the 100% crit legendary to kill people. And now that we have 2 vanishes, this talent is twice as lethal, especially when we are bursting with Symbols of Death, Cold Blood, and Echoing Reprimand, which are all very, very low cooldowns. Symbols of Death, for example, is only 25 seconds. So if you go for a burst with this and you gotta vanish either just to get away for a second, as soon as DRs come off in that 20 seconds, like 18 seconds later, you will have Echoing Reprimand because of the minus 20 seconds from Invigorating Shadow Dust. So it actually creates very, very high tempo gameplay. I really like playing with the CDR, and it's kind of hard to balance something like that because the game is to some degree balanced around trading cooldowns. That's it for talents. We're going to talk about gear real quick. The stat priority for sub is versatility over mastery, greater than crit, I would say, and then over haste. Haste is pretty garbage for sub. You don't want this. And you just want to run full PvP gear for the start of the season. You can also use the Bloody Tokens vendor to get mastery on your belt and your bracers. And this tactic will be really useful until we start getting into full epic gear. So consider using that. Once you get to this town in the story, you're going to unlock a quest that's going to start over here on the right side of the town. And then after beating that quest, you will get your first Spark of Ingenuity. Yep, you get the Foot Wraps of Indemnity. Can't even say that one. I'm sure I butchered that. But anyway, so it'll increase the effect, the 2 set of the trinket bonus, Those are really good. You might want to get that. I'm still farming mine as I've been working on multiple characters, Lock and Evoker. Real quick, I want to include this one macro for this video as well. /use 13, which uses the top trinket slot, as well as Symbols of Death, Cold Blood, and Echoing Reprimand. I pretty much always pop this after I use Dance. However, the reason I have this stuff separate is because the Cold Blood and the Echoing Reprimand sync up, and you want the Symbols of Death to increase the damage of Reprimand by 10%. It will not use or waste the Rotten charge, so you can immediately follow with Shadow Strike, or whenever you get to Shadow Strike in your rotation, as you'll see in the next clip here. It's kind of a priority system. It's a little weird. Subs rotations aren't as concrete as they used to be in previous years, and the main reason for that is because I believe if you land on the blue combo point from Echoing Reprimand, you should spend it. When you wouldn't want to spend it is when you can't keep the target stunned and still get that Eviscerate off. So that's why there's a little bit of variance. But for the most part, if you land on that blue combo point, especially after pressing the ability, it's really good to press it. All right, for this opener, I get a sap onto a shaman. So just get a sap on the other teammate, and then you go for your opener. You get a blades, cheap shot, and then you have 2 call points, which is pretty cool. You press Dance, you press your on use symbols, Cold Blood, your Kyrian, and that's going to put you to 4 or 5 call points depending on shadow techniques. I use Eviscerate, then I follow up with another cheap shot. And then I get to use my Rotten Shadow Strike right here, which is going to do a lot of damage. And yeah, so that's pretty much the kill. Anything you do after that, is you could go for another Shadow Strike here. This guy has a major cooldown of the Cocoon. So if he got that off, that's why I went for the little small stun just to delay that. So it's kind of up to that scenario, but the first few globals are always going to be the same. Basically just using the cheap shot, pressing all your buttons, going for the Echoing Reprimand, Eviscerate, and then cheap shot, Shadow Strike, Eviscerate again. That's a good rotation to do. As far as comps you can play for this season, I think a lot of the stuff is going to be the same as in Shadowlands. However, right now Shadow Priests are really good. I think Rogue Shadow Priest is going to be really good. Mages, if they get a few more buffs to fire, that will be good as well. Currently Frost is doing some pretty good damage. It has 2 builds, both with Glacial Spike and one doing a lot of instant damage with Ice Lance and Orb. And I think that build will be pretty good as well. With Rogue, it depends kind of if it hits the numbers. The meta is going to change a lot over the next few weeks. And yeah, those are just a couple recommendations. For playing 2v2, you could play with a Discipline Priest as they provide a lot of damage as well right now. I think Holy Priest can actually do some pretty good damage. Yeah, Priest Rogue I'm going to say is my number 1 for 2s. And in 3s, it's going to be RMP or RPS. And maybe Rogue Lock could be okay because locks are very, very powerful. Well, that's going to do it for this video. Hopefully you found this useful. If you did, please be sure to give the video a like. This is just kind of how to set up your Rogue. And yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll see you all in the next video. Peace. For honor talents, I forgot to mention, I use Shadowy Duel and Smoke Bomb every single game. I use Dismantle when it's useful, and if it's not going to be, I switch in Maneuverability. If you feel like Maneuverability won't be useful, switch it off. Anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace.